Hi, Yarka Kay here. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you're watching this. I hope you're well. I hope you're feeling happy and at ease with everything you're doing. Today, I really want to put you a little bit more at ease when it comes to your numbers, your business accounts, tax return, all of that. Today, we're going to talk about habits and creating healthy habits to help you feel that way, okay? To feel a bit more confident and in control. So today I really want to go through the little nitty gritty, okay? Because it's all well and said. You need to do your tax return, okay? Your head probably just exploded. One thing that I teach in my little Shut Up the Gremlins framework is habits. So today I'm just going to cover a little snippet of what I teach in this framework. And it's like I said, it's all very easy to say, do your tax return. The deadline is by 31st of January, 9 months after the tax year ends. So your tax year, if you are a sole trader, your tax year ends on 5th of April. So your tax year is 6th of April to the following year, 5th of April. Don't ask me why. It's to do with Roman calendar. That's what it is, okay? So it's not calendar year or school year. This is a totally different year, and it's called the tax year. And then you've got 9 months till the 31st of January of the following year to do it, okay? But what I teach, what I like my clients to do, is to not wait until the January. Because if you are employed as well, I always say the simplest and the soonest you can do it will be June. If you only have your self-employment income, then you can do it as early as 6th of April. But if you've got employment income and your employer doesn't send you your P60 until the end of May, which is their legal deadline, if it's any later, then they're breaking the law. So they should be sending you your P60 by the 31st of May. If you haven't got that, ask for it. But then June is your month to do it. And I've got 5 reasons why you can do I'm probably going to forget one. So so the reasons being, first, it's way before summer holidays. So once it's done, you can then chill and relax during summer. It's before the school breaks up. So you still have time potentially then, rather than if you were to leave it for the summer. So you still have time whilst the children are at school to do it. So that's 2. It's still fresh in your head. Rather than if you do it in December, for example, how likely are you going to remember a purchase? How likely are you going to remember, that particular supplier? Okay, it's very, very unlikely. So it's fresh in your head. It'll be done way before your holidays, and you will still get enough time when you get your tax bill and you realize how much that is. You've got till the 31st of January to actually pay it. So you'll have potentially 6 months to save money for it. Okay, if you haven't got the money saved up already, if this is your first year and the whole tax return, tax bill, and payment in advance is all a bit of a surprise. By the way, if this is the first time you hear about payment in advance, let me know, give me heads up. I do have a workshop for this, and I'm more than happy to send it over, and it's only £12. And it's an hour workshop. So healthy habits, okay? This is one of them. Put a date in a calendar and commit to when you want to do your tax return, okay? The official tax return deadline is 31st of January, but just have a look at your year, okay? When is a busy time for your family? When is a busy time in your business? When is a quiet time? When is the best time for you to do it? But allocate more time for it. Don't just allocate 1 hour, because if you've never done it, even if you have done it before, there will be little surprises. There will be things that you haven't necessarily accounted for, thought of. So give yourself more time. And I'm going to get to it in a minute. I'm going to have a drink already. Okay, give yourself the time. So when we talk about tax return, like I said, have a look at the busy time, the quiet time. And now when it's the quiet time, have a think as to when do you want to get it done by? Okay, we're gonna work our way backwards. So say you want to do it, let's just stick to it, 31st. So if you've never done it before, so I'm doing this podcast, we're in September, but I am going to assume that you've done your tax return and you are planning your next year. Okay. If you're only just listening to this in March or whenever, we're gonna aim for getting it done by end of June. If you haven't done it and it's September, then have a thing when is your quiet time. So we're gonna aim for getting it done by the 31st of June. The principle is the same, whatever time of the year you're listening to this. So, but for the sake of this podcast, we're gonna talk about let's get it done by 31st of June. 31st of June, we have our P60, we have our mindset in a space where we are ready to do the tax return. Okay, we are ready to do the hard work and get it done and submit it, whether you have an accountant or doing it yourself. Okay, the fact you hire an accountant to do it, there's still some work required for you to do. Okay, so you still need to commit to it equally. It's just a little bit easier with an accountant, but if you do it yourself, let's commit. Say 31st of June. Then work your way backwards. Have you got your bookkeeping ready? Have you got all your income and expenses in line? If you've got a spreadsheet, then you should potentially have all your income in one sheet. And it should have a date. It should have a who you sold, what you sold, and how much you sold it for, what your income was. Okay, so it should have all these things in your spreadsheet. When you talk to an accountant, they don't necessarily need to see the invoice, they just need to see the spreadsheet. Or if you've got Xero or other QuickBooks or any other accountancy software, that's probably even easier. But the question is your bookkeeping up to date? Okay, have you got all your transactions for the previous tax year from April to March covered in that spreadsheet? If you do, things will get a little bit easier. But let's assume you don't. So let's just go backwards. Let's assume you don't. So you then need to think of a plan, allowing yourself the time to do it, okay, to actually get your spreadsheet ready. This is something that you could do on a weekly basis, all year round, or monthly basis at the most. I wouldn't suggest doing it just before you do the tax return because things get a little bit hectic and stressed out. So let's assume you don't. So where do you store your invoices? Do you do them manually? Do you have paper trail? Every single transaction should have a paper trail. And you as a business should also have a bank account. It doesn't have to be a business bank account for sole traders. If you do have a limited company, you need to have, by law, a business bank account for anti-money laundering purposes. But if you are a sole trader, it is not required. It will still kind of look a little bit better if you have a business bank account, but business bank accounts usually cost money, and if you don't need to, you can easily just have a personal bank account. See, I'm giving you all sorts of other little nuggets other than just habits. A very good habit would be, I'm going to twist it around, a very good habit when it comes to bookkeeping, when it comes to accounts, bank accounts, is have a personal bank account and you have another personal bank account separate from your personal that you only use for business. So you need a debit card for this one, for the business use personal bank account. You will need a debit card so you can use that account for your purchases and so on and so forth. And the details on the bank account will then need to be added to your invoices so people can pay straight into that business use bank account. Okay. So another way to check that you've got all the transactions covered is to print out your bank account for the same period. That's what's called bank reconciliation. Print it all out and just check that all the transaction in your bank account on your bank statement is in your spreadsheet. Okay, that's probably the simplest way to do it if you've never done it before. Okay. Once you've done it once, you've got no excuse. You just need to do it. You need to do your bookkeeping on a weekly basis, and it will save you so much time, and it will get you a bit more in a different place when it comes to finances in your business as well. A lot better place, okay? But if you've never done this before, I'm going to assume you've never done this before. Bank statement would be your best place for it. So you've got one sheet for your income, and then you've got one sheet for your expenses. Your sheet for your expenses, a very good habit to get into is, like I said, to do it on a weekly basis. Or if you make a business purchase, snap it with your phone. Because if you lose the receipt, okay, you can't claim it. So snap the receipt. I would still suggest that you keep those receipts. They need to be kept for 7 years. Or if you take a picture of it, save it on your hard drive. Okay, but save it in a kind of the good habit I would suggest is, say I usually use Asda. So if you are say do networking events and you need to buy some refreshments, milk, biscuits, something, you go to Asda. And you spend £5 on all of these things. You write Asda date £5, and that's how you save it. And I would probably do it alphabetically. Either have a folder that you've got different folders A to Z, or just have one folder purchases and just save all your receipts in there that way. That would be my suggestion. That's what I do for all my clients. But you need to keep all your receipts, because no receipt, no claim. Simple as that. Right, expenses. So in your spreadsheet, we're gonna go back to your spreadsheet. There will be a sheet, and you'll need to put date in that spreadsheet, who you paid, what you paid them for. Okay, say you go, what I do as well, which is a really, really good habit. What I do as well is, every time I go for coffee or meeting with a client, and we had coffee and lunch or biscuit or cake or whatever, I take the receipt and I actually write down on the receipt who I met and what the meeting was about. Say a potential client, or meeting a client about working, future work together, or XYZ, some notes to go with it. Snap it, okay? Keep the receipt, save the picture on your hard drive as soon as you come home, or on your weekly basis when you do it. Just need to go through your phone, plug it to the computer, drag, paste it, and save it. With your expenses spreadsheet, let's go back to that as well again. Yes, you need to process the date. You've got who you paid it to, what you paid for, and how much. But you also, if you haven't got one, again, give me get in touch, and I'll send you a spreadsheet. This one is free. I'll give you a spreadsheet, and there's a number of categories, and you can change it over. So there are things like stationery, travel, accountancy fees, subscriptions, CPD, things like that. There's also little categories. If you're only just starting up, spreadsheet will be enough. If your business is already a little bit more established, then I would suggest that you get QuickBooks or else or different to actually do it online. If your turnover is £25,000 a year and up, it would probably quite hard to keep it all on a paper or on a spreadsheet, and it'd be a lot easier if you then get an app as well, because those accountancy softwares, they now come with app, so you can snap those receipts straight in the app. Okay, about that one, with your app, what you can snap the receipt and save it in the app, but there is a big but. If you ever say you are in QuickBooks and then years time you decide you want to switch, when you switch from QuickBooks to say Xero, those receipts don't transfer. So don't rely on those software to save your receipts. You need to keep them to prove to HMRC for at least 7 years. And if you switch, you will lose all the receipts that you saved onto the program. Okay, so there's a big but. So you can save it onto the program, but you also need to make sure that you save it on your hard drive so you can keep it for those 7 years. Right, so we're talking about step by step. In that spreadsheet that I've got as well, is you've got the income, you've got the expenses, and then I've got another sheet called profit and loss. So it's all pre-programmed. So once you start entering details into the income and expenses sheets, it will automatically feed into this P&L. So you can then see how it's all looking on the P&L, profit and loss account, and you can see what your profit is. Okay, so it's quite simple. Now, If you go back to the very beginning when we said, I assume that you've got no spreadsheet, that's why we just covered that. You need to give yourself the time to fill in the spreadsheet, to print out those bank statements and to sync the bank statements with your bookkeeping system, the spreadsheet or your QuickBooks or Xero. The best way is to actually tick it. So once you enter it onto the spreadsheet, you go onto the bank statement and you tick it off. It's done, processed. Okay, you don't have to worry about it, that's done. So you need to go through all of these. And every transaction that's on the spreadsheet, on this bank statement, needs to be recorded on a spreadsheet. So if you have, say, 20 transactions a month, all those 20 transactions need to be found on a spreadsheet. Okay, I hope that's clear. So give yourself time to do it. It might take you an hour to do those, an hour a month, in which case you'll need 12 hours. So put that in your diary. So you already put 31st, that you want your tax return to be done by 31st of, oh sorry, June only has 30 days, 30th of June, okay? Have a look what networking events you do or events you need to do or what work you've got planned out, and then work your bookkeeping around it. If it's one hour a month, then block in, say you can start in April, you can start anytime, okay? Block 1 hour a month to do that bookkeeping so it's done. So once you have your bookkeeping done and you know your profit and loss account is for the tax return purposes, you can then log into HMRC. What I don't know is where you're at in that process, okay? So a good habit is to take your diary and commit to a day. Say you are not even registered with HMRC. So you then need to register with HMRC. You'll get a gateway number and you will get a letter with your UTR, unique tax reference number. Okay, I can talk about it another time. This is a totally like a whole new podcast on. So if you are interested in hearing about that, let me know. So when you register and you've got your gateway, and if you've never done it before, you need to give yourself the time to familiarize yourself with the tax return, with how it works, what sort of questions it's asking you. There's going to be some terminology that you don't know, in which case, please don't Google things or ask on Facebook. Find an accountant like myself or any other if you've got a friend. Ask a person who is qualified, experienced, so you get the first answer will be the answer. Whereas if you go on Google or you ask on Facebook, you'll probably get 20 answers. 20 people will respond. Between the 20 people, you probably get 5 different answers, and then you still need to sift through these as to what you're going to decide for, okay? So ask an accountant. What I can offer you is at the moment I've got a free group called Solopreneurs Without an Accountant. That will soon change. It will change in October this year, next month actually. And that free group is then going to change slightly and will be at a small charge at £10 a month. So it's a very, very small charge, but it will give you what you need. It's not going to be something that you'll need, you go there and you ask, I answer. So if you've got any terminology questions, okay, you just need to go in there and ask and you get an answer. Okay, so that's your accountancy support. But like I said, get an accountancy support. There's going to be lots of answers here. I do a lot of lives on my page, on my personal page on Facebook. So there's lots of free resources. I do also have a guide on allowable expenses. So feel free to ask me for that, and I'll send you the link. So there's lots of free resources already. And if that's not enough, then the group Solopreneurs Without an Accountant will be your next best step. And then you can upgrade. Then, I've got different packages. But that group can potentially grow with you and your business in mind, and your needs, until to a point when you are happy to outsource to an accountant, when you've learned, when you know the value of your accounts, you know the value in the work that needs to go into it, and you'll be able to pick the right accountant for you. Okay, that's the best way to go about this, I feel. So we've committed to a date to do your tax return. You've committed to 12 hours to do your bookkeeping. Now you need to commit to a day when you want to have a look at the tax return and do your gateway and just familiarize yourself with that and ask those questions. This could take a week, 2 weeks, depend how quickly those questions come to you. Okay, so the first time, if you decide to do it by the 30th of June, you might want to start doing your bookkeeping, say in April, to fit your 12 hours into it. Give yourself, say, 2 weeks at the beginning of June as well to familiarize yourself, or a week or an hour, whatever you feel. It's not going to take you, 24/7 for 2 weeks. It's not that hard. But it depends on when commit an hour to look at your tax return, to familiarize yourself with it, and to drop down those questions that you have, because the first time you do it, it will ask you, the first 3 pages are going to ask you about what you do in your business. Have you got property? What sort of income have you got? Have you got property? Are you self-employed, employed? Do you take benefits? Do you pay a pension? Do you get pension? First gift aid, all of these things. And once you tick all of these, there will be pages added depending on what you've ticked. Okay, again, I've got a workshop on this for the first 3 pages of the tax return. So feel free to get in touch. It's £12 for the workshop. So, let me know if you want it. I've got a workshop for anything. So that's, I lost my train of thought now. So you've got a date for that, and then you want to give yourself a date for maybe a week before the deadline to actually do your tax return, to enter all your details, okay? To put your income, to put your expenses. If you're employed as well, you'll need to put employment income, tax you've paid so far as well, and then fill up all the other questions and all the other pages to the point when you get to see your calculation, your tax and NI, national insurance calculation. If you're happy with that, then you might be able to submit that a week before your deadline. How cool would that be? Okay, how cool would that be? I'd say cool. So that would be your next step there. So you could potentially get it all done within a month. If you are on it, you could all get it done within a week. And more often you do it, faster you'll get. So those are your healthy habits. Set the deadline and work your way backwards. How long do you want to give yourself to familiarize yourself? And do you want to give it a go? How much time do you think you need to actually finish your bookkeeping? And commit to all of these in your diary. Block it out like you would do a spa day. Okay, a spa day, when you book it, okay, if I assume that you are female, when you book it, there is nothing that will stop you from going, right? You just go and do it. You've committed and you go and you want to go to a spa. So you're not gonna keep pushing it down on your to-do list, do you? But I know that a lot of business owners do keep putting their tax returns at the bottom to their to-do list. Okay, don't do it. Commit. That's your accountability little moment right here. You just need to commit and do it. You can apply all of these tips if you are a limited company and you need to do your year-end account. So you say your year-end account is September. Okay, you then have 9 months to do your year-end accounts, to file it. I would strongly suggest that you hire an accountant to do your actual year-end accounts, but you still need to commit some time to actually give them the details and make sure that everything is up to date, that they've got all the details that they need. Ask those questions. Okay, if you've got an accountant who never comes back to you with questions, then you might want to question that. Okay, why don't you ever tell me? Why don't you ever ask me about this and this and that? Okay, they're not wizards. They're not gonna they need to ask. So if they don't ask, they probably make a lot of assumptions, in which case they don't necessarily have you in mind. They've got a time scale in mind. Just think about that. An accountant that asks questions is in my eyes, a good accountant. So you can apply for being a limited company as well. When do you want your year-end accounts done? The fact that you finish your year-end in September, but it's not actually due until June, is almost irrelevant. Do you want it done by Christmas? Talk to your accountant as to what time scale they can work with. what do they need your stuff by. Say you want it done by Christmas, they probably need 6 weeks to 2 months to actually do it because they've got other clients. Okay, it doesn't take 2 months to do it, but they've got other clients to fit around, so they just need to find a slot where they can fit you in. So you need to make sure that between September and October, because then they need November, December to do it. Then you only have month and a half potentially to update your bookkeeping and send everything to your accountant. So it's the same thing. When do you want it done by? Family also tell you what you need to do. Ask your accountant what they need from you: bank statements, updated spreadsheets, updated QuickBooks. How long is it going to take you to update it? Okay, commit to dates in your diary. Write it in your diary. So my diary is right here, and it's open at all times. Okay, it's my law of attraction diary planner, and I love it. And communicate with your accountant. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. I think I covered quite a lot here, and I don't want to overwhelm you unless I've done that already. In which case, I'm sorry. Have a lovely, lovely day, guys. And I'll talk to you soon on the next podcast. Ta-da.